2 hours later, Karen emerged from her house with her clipboard, measuring tape, and digital camera, determined to complete her inspection route, despite the distant sounds of chaos. The street was eerily quiet, too quiet. Most of her neighbors had heeded the warnings and stayed inside. But Karen Whitfield had never been deterred by a little inconvenience. She was photographing the Patel family's allegedly non-compliant rose bushes when a military Humvee rounded the corner. It stopped directly in front of her. "Ma'am, you need to get inside immediately," called the young soldier behind the wheel. "This area is under curfew." Karen straightened up, clipboard in hand. "I'm conducting official HOA business. I have authorization to be on these premises." The soldier looked confused. "Ma'am, there's civil unrest throughout the city. For your safety." "Young man, I've been the head of this homeowners association for 12 years. I know every rule, every regulation, and every resident in this neighborhood. If anyone should be concerned about safety, it's the people who've been flagrantly violating community standards." A second soldier leaned over. "Is she serious?" Karen seized the moment. "Since you're here, perhaps you could help me. The Martinez family at 412 has been operating what appears to be an unpermitted food truck in their driveway. It's a clear violation of our commercial activity prohibition." The soldiers exchanged glances. "Ma'am, we're not here about food trucks." "Well, you should be. Do you have any idea what property values will do if we allow commercial vehicles in residential driveways?" The radio in the Humvee crackled with urgent chatter about barricades and crowd control. The first soldier tried again. "Ma'am, please. People are getting hurt out there. You need to go home." Karen felt something crack inside her chest, a flutter of actual fear. But she pushed it down with practiced efficiency. "I appreciate your concern, but I have responsibilities. The Henderson's fence is still 2 inches too high, and Mrs. Chen has wind chimes that are clearly audible beyond the property line." The Humvee pulled away, leaving Karen standing alone on the sidewalk. For the first time, she noticed the smell of smoke on the wind and the way the afternoon light had taken on an orange tinge. A distant explosion rumbled through the air. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dale. "Karen, where are you? They're saying downtown is completely shut down. The Rodriguezes next door asked if we need anything from the store before they board up." Karen typed back, "Completing inspection. We'll be home for dinner." But as she approached the Martinez house, she noticed something that made her stop cold. Their driveway was empty. No food truck, no violation. In fact, the house looked abandoned. The windows were dark, and there was a hastily written note taped to the front door that she couldn't quite read from the street. For the first time in her 12-year reign as HOA president, Karen felt uncertain. She looked around the street and realized she was completely alone. Every house was shuttered, every driveway empty except for her own pristine neighborhood, which suddenly felt less like a sanctuary and more like a ghost town. Her phone rang. "Karen," it was her daughter Melissa, calling from San Diego. "Mom, are you okay? I'm seeing the news about Lei. Please tell me you're not outside right now." "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just finishing up some neighborhood business." "Mom, there are literal riots. Promise me you'll go home." Karen looked at her clipboard, then at the empty street, then at the orange sky. I will. Soon." Karen finally headed home as the sun began to set, her clipboard feeling heavier with each step. The familiar streets of Willowbrook Estates looked different somehow. The perfectly manicured lawns seemed almost artificial, the identical mailboxes like silent sentinels guarding empty houses. She was almost to her front door when she heard voices from the Martinez house. Curious, she crept closer and saw Miguel Santos loading boxes into his truck, his wife Elena beside him with tears streaming down her face. "Miguel," Karen called out, surprising herself. "Is everything all right?" Miguel looked up, his expression a mixture of exhaustion and something that might have been pity. "We're leaving, Mrs. Whitfield. Tonight." "Leaving? But your mailbox violation. We haven't resolved." "Our cousin was taken in the raids," Elena said quietly. "He's been here 15 years. His kids were born here. Now he's gone, and they're saying more raids are coming." Karen felt something shift inside her chest. But But this is Willowbrook Estates. This is a good neighborhood. We have standards. We have rules. Miguel walked over to her, his voice gentle but firm. Your rules don't protect people like us, Mrs. Whitfield. They never did. I don't understand, Karen said, and for the first time in years she meant it. The HOA exists to maintain property values, to keep the community safe and orderly. Safe for who? Miguel asked. I've lived here 8 years. I've followed every single one of your rules. Cut my grass exactly right, painted my house the approved colors, kept my mailbox at the right height. But when real trouble comes, when my family needs safety, your rules don't mean anything. Karen looked at her clipboard, at the violation notices she'd been so proud of, at the measurements and photos documenting her neighbors' small infractions. I was trying to maintain standards. I know, Miguel said. But standards for what? For who? As if summoned by their conversation, more neighbors emerged from their houses. The Patels, the Chens, the Johnsons with their unauthorized wind chimes. They were all carrying bags, all preparing to leave. Where is everyone going? Karen asked, her voice smaller than usual. Somewhere safer, said Mrs. Patel. My brother in Orange County. My sister's place in Riverside, added Mr. Johnson. Karen watched as her perfectly ordered neighborhood began to dissolve before her eyes. These people, these rule breakers she'd spent years documenting and correcting. They were her community. Without them, what was she president of? Dale appeared at her elbow. Karen, we should go inside. The news is saying the riots are spreading. But Karen couldn't move. She stood in the middle of her empty street, watching her neighbors drive away one by one, their taillights disappearing into the smoky night. Her clipboard fluttered in the wind, violation notices scattering across the perfect asphalt. Dale, she said quietly, what if I've been wrong about everything? What do you mean? Karen looked at her house, with its perfect lawn and regulation height mailbox, and for the first time in 12 years, it felt like a prison. What if maintaining order isn't the same thing as building community? A distant siren wailed through the night air. In the morning, Karen knew she would wake up as the HOA president of a ghost town. But tonight, for the first time in years, she was asking herself the right questions. She picked up one of the scattered violation notices, Miguel's mailbox citation, and tore it in half. Then she looked at Dale, her expression uncertain but determined. Tomorrow, she said, I think we need to have a very different kind of neighborhood meeting. But as they walked toward their house, Karen couldn't shake the feeling that tomorrow might be too late for more than just her HOA. Karen Whitfield was measuring her neighbor's mailbox with a ruler when the first helicopter thundered overhead. She didn't look up. She was too busy documenting what was clearly a 2-inch violation of Willowbrook Estates' mailbox height regulations. The helicopter's shadow passed over her perfectly manicured lawn, but Karen remained laser-focused on her mission. Excuse me, what exactly are you doing? Karen spun around to find Miguel Santos, the mailbox's owner, standing behind her with his arms crossed. His work uniform was dusty, and he looked exhausted. I'm conducting a routine compliance inspection, Karen replied, adjusting her reading glasses. Your mailbox exceeds the 42-inch maximum by exactly 2 1/8 inches. Miguel stared at her. Lady, are you serious right now? The HOA bylaws are very clear, Mr. Santos. Section 4.27 specifically. A second helicopter roared past, followed by a convoy of military vehicles that shook the ground. This time, Karen couldn't ignore it. She looked up to see smoke rising in the distance toward downtown LA. What's happening? She muttered. Miguel pulled out his phone, his face growing pale as he scrolled through news alerts. ICE raids went bad, really bad. The whole city's going crazy. Karen felt a flutter of unease, but she pushed it down. Structure, order, that's what mattered. Well, regardless of external circumstances, the HOA standards must be maintained. I'm issuing you a formal violation notice. Are you out of your mind? Miguel's voice rose. There are riots in the streets, and you're worried about my mailbox. Karen straightened her shoulders. Especially during times of chaos, Mr. Santos. Community standards become more important, not less. I'll expect this corrected within 72 hours, or will proceed with fines. Miguel shook his head in disbelief and walked toward his house. Karen called after him, "And your lawn needs edging. The grass is extending beyond the approved border." As Miguel slammed his front door, Karen felt a strange satisfaction. Finally, someone who understood that she meant business. She walked back to her own house, past her prize-winning rose garden and perfectly aligned garden gnomes, trying to ignore the increasing sounds of sirens in the distance. Inside, her husband Dale was glued to the television. "Karen, you need to see this. The National Guard's being deployed. They're setting up checkpoints." Karen glanced at the screen showing burning buildings and crowds of people. "Well, I'm sure it will all blow over soon. Did you remember to submit the Henderson's fence violation to the board?" Dale stared at her. "Karen, are you listening? This is serious. They're saying people should stay indoors." "Nonsense," Karen replied, pulling out her violation forms. "I have my monthly neighborhood inspection scheduled for this afternoon. The Pattels hedge is definitely overgrown, and don't get me started on the Johnsons' unauthorized wind chimes."